All right. Today on Just Talking, our guest calling in today is Katie Williams, former Miss Nevada. So how's it going, Katie?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Oh, we love having you on. I mean, I think you have such a interesting story that I've never heard before. And, just to start it off right from the gate, for all the listeners who might not know you, can you kind of give a brief rundown of who you are?
Yeah. So currently I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I was a contestant in the Miss America pageant, which is for older ladies like myself. 29, have a kid, married. And so of course I'm a little controversial. Some would say I don't think so. I think I'm just me. And then I got disqualified from competing. Maybe like 4 days before I actually went to go compete in Long Beach, where you guys are at.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean,
and that was competing for the Miss America, correct?
Yeah, so it's like Ms. America.
Oh,
so
I
have to be
That's like geriatric pageantry.
I know, it's just a geriatric pageantry. Yeah, no, I have to be careful because, watch me get slapped with a lawsuit saying...
I know, huh? You said...
Wrong beauty pageant.
You added an extra S.
Yes.
Yeah,
2
how
S's.
dare you? How dare you start lying about your age?
But let me ask you this, Katie. Why did you get into beauty pageants?
So I'm actually a combat veteran, and it's one of those things that I felt that, I could show two different sides of me. I was kind of a tomboy growing up, but, in my teen years, of course, you like makeup, you like boys, you're like, oh, I love all this stuff. And when I joined the military, I was 17 years old, and so I don't think I really ever got to express that side of myself before going overseas and before, going to these different training events. I was basically always a dude at that point. And so being able to go do beauty pageants kind of really explored that side of my femininity.
You sound like the new Barbie action figure. Honestly.
G.I. Jane.
It has it all. Could fight the war, kill zombies, and look good while doing that.
Yeah, you might be an unlockable character in like Call of Duty.
Yeah,
I think we're literally talking to one right now.
Yeah, I feel like I can have like an M16 in one hand and then like a latte in the other.
Okay, that's actually hot.
That's a bit, to me, that's a bit intense. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to handle. Too much caffeine for you, Katie, okay?
Yeah, but, I'm telling you.
So, Katie, how did you get your titled strip as Miss Nevada in the beauty pageant? Can you kind of go into detail about why this is such a big deal and why so many outlets out there like ABC, Fox News, MSNBC, and even The Hill are talking about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a rule in the pageant that says like it's a no politics pageant, so that your pageant page has to be void of all politics. And I said, okay, no problem, right? So I actually made a separate page for just my pageant stuff. So I had like my pageant photos on there, pageant events that I would do. I only friended pageant friends on that page. I didn't put any of my other friends on there because you know how people are crazy and
it'll cross over.
GPS tracking
it'll cross over, right? So I separated them completely. So on my personal page, I would still post my pictures and my political opinions because they're my personal page.
Right.
So the director, because the director and I had a couple conversations. She's like, hey, and I put these conversations out to the world too,
Yeah.
And she said, I really like what you're doing and I actually agree with you, just maybe take it down a notch. And so actually for a while I did. Probably those first few months I was like, okay, well maybe you're right. Like, okay, maybe I can just kind of cool it for a little bit on politics, and I'm not super extreme anyway. So I get to that point. Yeah. And so I post a picture, of course, and that that set the firestorm.
And what was the picture you posted?
Oh, I was wearing a President Trump 2020 hat. And so it was just a selfie on my personal page.
So that's breaking the rules.
And that was it. But it was on my personal page. And so when she actually had a conversation with me over the phone and kind of like scolding me, or getting on the phone with me and also saying, like, hey, I appreciate you and I support you.
Well,
after a while.
Too bad you couldn't have blocked her from the page. Like, you block the mommies and daddies. You're like, and you can't see anything of mine.
Yeah, you can't do that on a business page.
So I didn't tell anybody this, but funny enough, that's actually in the rules too, that you're required to be friends with her on the page, so you have to, so she can see all your stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's actually in the initial contract too. And I don't think people realize that. So like, no matter what I did, she had to be a friend of mine, so she would see everything I did.
So because hey, Katie, when I hear this, it's like, yeah, maybe you and we have two different political agendas, right? But the biggest thing with me that just when I hear this story is they're trying to control a beauty pageant from saying all you got to do is just smile, wave, look cute, and keep your opinions neutral. And to me, when I hear this kind of conversation, it kind of reminds me about, on Fox News when Laura Ingraham told LeBron James to shut up and dribble. And I think that's a fair line. And I would like to throw it at you and say, like, the Women's March happened last weekend. What happened if one of the beauty pageants posted that they were at the event? Does that mean that you're breaching the contract?
Yeah, see, I don't actually think, and I kind of agree with you on that sense that, I don't think people need to fit into these roles that we're kind of assigned to. It's okay for us to live outside the box, because if you met me on the outside, I was in the military, and I don't think I'm super feminine, but I do have all these masculine traits, but I don't feel like I have to always be that. And, if people define me that way, then that's, honestly, to me, it kind of ticks me off. But,
Yeah. Well, I have a question, though, because I know, you're a Trump supporter on here. You have, you've been ousted because of your support of a political party on your own personal page, right? So you try to keep it separate. You've been ousted. The news outlets are picking it up. Has anybody from Trump's camp or any Republican representatives reached out to you to be a speaker or at any event or anything? Because if I was on their camp, you would be the first person I would contact to come speak. Because your rights, regardless of how a viewpoint of politics are, your rights were infringed upon on your own personal page.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I got a lot of feedback from people. I had people write me emails and tell me that they support me. I actually had Kimberly Guilfoyle. She invited me to an event, and I was on the Laura Ingraham show, things like that. But other than that, no, not really. I get to travel. I do a little bit of work for Turning Point USA, which is a great organization for conservatives in college. Because, and even though, our political differences are there, I think just having the conversation with people is what's important. It doesn't have to be conservative or liberal. In fact, most of my family is from Illinois, so most of them are liberal.
Yeah.
Which is fine with me.
Which is like the flip side of my dinner party. Most of my family is very conservative, so I go and I'm like, can we just talk about the mashed potatoes and gravy?
Yeah, right? I know. It's like, can we just talk about the weather for once?
Yeah, please.
Well, both of you ladies are both hitting it right on the nose. To me, I feel like the art of conversation is being missed. A lot of the times you can't have a conversation without someone barking at you real quick and without even getting your full thought out. And I could be thinking you're dead wrong, Katie, but the fact is you're a part of a beauty pageant and they're trying to control your lives all the way through. There's no way I would keep my opinion neutral, so it totally makes sense with me. And
I think what my frustration is with your situation is, okay, I can kind of see them disqualifying you from Ms. America, refunding you in full. I guess you're fighting that right now, right? Did they refund you your money?
They didn't refund me at all.
Yeah, so that's right there.
Well, let's get on into it.
Illegal.
Did you return the crown?
But that's for the Miss
Nevada.
Nevada.
No, you did. So you still have it.
Yes. Good.
I love it.
I still have the crown. I have the sash. And, they actually sent me a cease and desist letter telling me that I wasn't allowed to make appearances as a former Miss Nevada. I'm like, yeah, but that's the truth.
You got to wear it for Halloween and be like, it's just my Halloween costume.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. My Halloween costume.
Or send it our way and we'll wear the crown
but that's
for
what
you.
I was kind of I was going at, Katie. Is just like, okay, so you're going to keep somebody from going forward, fine. Okay, refund the money, call the day, here it is. But trying to take something that you actually won on your own merit, that's already done, it's been voted on, because someone doesn't like a view. And I looked at your pages, I saw stuff. You know what I mean? There was nothing on there where you're like, I'm going to go out there and with my AK-47 and kill all these liberals. Then I'm like, okay, maybe
then it would be like that movie Red versus Blue State. I'd be like, okay, Katie, let's kind of tone it down a bit.
It wasn't. But your thing about being punished because of a political view that is not popular within the circuit of entertainment, I thought was really interesting. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Right. Yeah, I kind of agree, and I think we saw this also, at the Golden Globes with Ricky Gervais, when he kind of unloaded on Hollywood. I mean, he's a liberal through and through, and he'll tell you, too. He's like, but you have to have some sense of, common sense and some sense of humor and some sense of, like, just knowledge, To have the knowledge and not do anything, well, then you're just choosing to be ignorant, And it's like we're allowing.
I love that.
We're not allowing people to be themselves. And look at our generation. We're the elder millennials of our generation, where we've been able to vote for the last 2 cycles. And now we have this younger first generation of venials that can come out and vote now. And yeah, I think that it's important for them to understand that they don't always have to agree. They don't always have to see eye to eye. But as long as you can go into a conversation with just love in your heart and for your fellow man, and just be able to have the conversation and then walk away when you're like, okay, yeah, we're not going to agree. We're not going to change each other's minds. But hey, you want to go grab a coffee or whatever?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we talked about it last week. I mean, even Stephen King, out of all people, got outlashed by Ava DuVernay just because he said diversity doesn't matter in the arts. He just wants to vote on the best film. He's not talking about having people of color on screen. But everybody who's checking this out, this is the Chris Collins Show, and I just want to remind all the listeners out there that we are going to be taking a quick, short break for announcements.
And for those of you who have been streaming with us this morning, please continue to listen to our show by going to thechriscollinsshow.com and click the on-air button.
That's right. We'll be right back. Hey, what's good, fam? This is the Chris Collins Show, and I just want to let everybody know that we're back in the studio, and we have our Just Talking guest, Katie Williams, who is a former Miss Nevada. How you doing, Katie?
I contest the former.
I'm wonderful.
Right now, I think
How
she's
are
still
you?
there.
Hey, we're doing Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Tom Ford here in the studio.
I know.
But
hey, you guys interrupted my latte, so
Oh,
hey, Lisa,
watch out for that AK-47.
Please, please keep the M16 down, please. Hey, but Katie, I definitely wanted to play you this clip because this happened on Monday at the MLK Summit, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had a say that she said that stirred all over Twitter.
Oh, hold on. I did not have it set.
Oh.
1 second.
But,
here it is.
All right,
okay.
Here it goes, fam, for all the listeners if you haven't caught up.
We don't have a left party in the United States. The Democratic Party is not a left party. The Democratic Party is a center or center conservative party. We do not advocate for, we can't even get a floor vote on Medicare for all. Not even a floor vote that gets voted down. We can't even get a vote on it. So this is not a left party. There are left members inside the Democratic Party that are working to try to make that shift happen.
So, Katie, after hearing what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just said at the MLK Summit in New York, what are your thoughts on Ocasio-Cortez saying that the left party, there is no left party in the United States?
Yeah, so one, I think she's completely off base. I mean, we see this in the media, and you guys work on radio, and you guys can kind of see it too. You know what stories will get picked up for what reasons, and there are. Now, a while ago, there used to be, just 2 parties, Democratic and Republican, and then you had your small group of independents. And now we're starting to see, we had classical liberals and, conservatives. Well, now we see, like, these extreme left, our classical liberals, our conservatives, and our extreme right. Right? There's no denying that they're out there.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you think, because you talked about independence, and I kind of want to jump on this because I'm an independent. Do you think that with the way, because I agree with you, I think there's extremisms within both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, there's definitely left, there's definitely a right. And then you have the independent like myself. You know what I mean? Because I sway on depending on what that vote is, what that what's coming up, my opinion, my background, how it affects my family, the future, and the whole nine. Do you think a third party will come out of something from these next few elections? Because I keep hearing buzz from a lot of different independents who are millennials being like, you know what, I want to have something that has a little bit of both because I don't like either party.
Well, it's kind of like you said. I mean, 2016, it seemed like it was the Green Party movement. Now it's becoming a progressive movement. And is there a difference in your opinion, Katie?
Well, I don't necessarily think there is a huge difference. I mean, if you look at the Green Party, it's basically the Libertarian Independent Party. I identify when I was probably 18, 19 years old, I was probably more of a Democrat. And, as I got older and I had to start paying bills and things like that, you kind of start paying attention to things that actually affect you. And I said this for a long time, that things on the big government side don't affect like the regular kind of average Joe worker as much as things on a lower state level do.
Yeah. So, yes.
I mean, back in 2018, President Trump signed a, Clean Our Oceans bill, which I fully supported and I thought was great. But how does that affect me, as a 28-year-old United States citizen who lived at the time in the Midwest? You know what I mean? But when our governor raises our taxes, our property taxes or our income taxes, that directly affects me. And so I want to encourage a lot of millennials and millennials to start looking at that lower level. I'm not saying ignore what's happening on a federal stage, but it's exactly what it is. It's a stage. Whatever that they actually see is there's so much more going on behind it. And I think a lot of people actually make fun of me because all I do is read bills all day long.
Well, I feel like a lot of the millennials, ever since the 2016 election, they just feel alienated. I mean, everywhere they go, even when we're in our college campuses, anytime politics get bring up, it's like we can't have a conversation. So many people are holding back in, and I don't think a lot of people do identify themselves as independent, but are they truly independent? I mean, Marissa and I have talked about this on the show numerous times about if you're not going to read every kind of political outlet, and if you're just going to, let's say you're an MSNBC, CNN kind of person, and you're not paying attention to Fox News, then you're not independent. You're not making a decision. It's just like how you're liking any of your representatives, or if you're liking a certain Facebook page, it's going to obviously cater towards you. So do you see that being an existential threat in the United States?
I mean, I do. I think us as millennials, of course, we kind of grew up in a digital age, and the Gen Zers kind of got their phones at 5 and 6 years old, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so that's all they're seeing. They don't know how to have a conversation with someone face to face or even maintain eye contact. I mean, next time you go out and talk to your barista at whatever your local coffee shop is, just look at them and just start talking to them, and watch how quickly their eyes will divert away from you because they're not used to that.
Well, it's true. I mean, even the show before us, Mornings on the Beach, they were talking about how us millennials, we don't even pick up the phone. We don't even want to have that conversation. When someone calling you, I'm thinking it's like Obamacare calling me in, or like healthcare all over again. I'm like, dude, I just got insurance. Stop it! Like, this open enrollment is so overwhelming for a 26-year-old kid like me who needs my mumsy to help me out.
I love the fact that you go on about local politics. I always tell people, regardless of your affiliation between the presidents, if you're like, I don't like either, I'm just not going to vote, go anyway and vote on your local laws. What's that state happening? Because we are the United States, so every single state has different laws that affect you, your taxes and everything. And people don't realize that. They think they're in like the UK and it's one big royal government.
Rights, and it really does upset me. And I did have a professor during my graduate studies, I'm not going to say his name, but it blows my mind that he advocated for people of color in the classroom not to vote because their votes don't matter.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very cringy.
That's insane to me. That's insane to me.
That to me, I'm not of color. But go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, you look at it too, and you look at the average age of voters, it's still 65. Right? Every single cycle, it's still 65.
So how do we get the youth involved?
Right. So even if you're not voting on a presidential election, you need to vote in your city elections because, or your state elections. Like in Nevada, marijuana is legal here, right?
Yeah.
We don't really care as long as you don't smoke and drive, basically.
Yeah.
And it falls under the same laws as alcohol and drugs. So they just handle it, right? It's not a big issue here because everyone just kind of grows up around it and just deals with it,
Mm-hmm.
But those policies do affect us. Me, I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter, right? So I have guns. And
what's your favorite gun to shoot?
Go ahead.
What's your favorite gun to shoot?
I actually like my Glock a lot.
Yeah.
But it just kind of depends. But I think it depends on the mood.
Okay,
my husband has an M1 Grand, which I love.
Ooh,
but anyway,
I shot that. Sorry. I have another question because I'm curious because I also do some shooting. Between the AK-47 and the AR-15, which one do you think shoots better?
AR-15, no question.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I said, too.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, to me, it seems like it makes sense. But let me switch gears.
No, it's 10 times more accurate, so it's just a better weapon all around.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Have you ever shot one, Chris? You're all definitely.
No,
exactly.
not at all.
So let me say definitely, sir. I shot one.
Bring mine out, Chris. One day we'll go
my
shooting.
Call of
Bring it out.
Duty.
Hey, Katie's going to take you shooting.
Oh, my God. That sounds intense. Just don't, you got to watch my back, Katie, all right?
I'll hold your latte, Chris.
Yeah, hold my latte. You're funny. Hey, Katie, let me switch gears because I wanted to ask you this because I always thought this was pretty insane because we already know that, the 2020 election's coming up. And you were saying earlier you are an Army veteran who deployed in Afghanistan. And, back in the 2016 election, when I heard, President Trump back in the, on the election or during the election cycle say, I don't like, sorry, why am I blanking out? Well, he doesn't like war criminals who get captured. I honestly thought that was the end of him. And so what are your thoughts on that? Because I know we've been really speaking about our First Amendment rights and how they're being infringed upon us, but I don't really know how to swallow that whole situation up because it's still been scratching at my back recently. And I don't know how you feel.
So President Trump in general, I mean, he's an infragile person, right? So it doesn't matter what you kind of hit on him. I swear he's going to come back every single time and just use it as his advantage. They always say, like, any media is good media, rather, even bad news is good news. And so, I mean, that's how that is. I remember watching this clip and kind of my thought is anytime I hear something come out of anyone's mouth, I think, what's the context, right? Because there's so many things in today's media that get clipped and sent out and then it goes viral and everyone's like, oh, you're a racist or, oh, you're this.
Sure, yeah, right?
And so when I heard that, I was like, well, what's the context? So I remember asking myself back then and there, there's been many people who have been captured that he's actually released or gotten their stuff, I guess, gotten released from other countries and prisons and stuff like that. That one was wholeheartedly, a dig at John McCain. It absolutely was.
I thought that was, to me, I was like, wow, that's another conservative going after another conservative. I mean, he literally ran in the 2012 election. I mean, it's insane to me when I was originally thinking about it. But I think you're hitting on something that's kind of interesting because I know even last night, President Donald Trump on his Twitter page, he posted a picture of Donald Trump sitting in a room and there was Barack Obama with the binoculars looking through the window. And I was laughing super hard. I mean, it's hard not to laugh because you're going, did he just do that? And so what I'm kind of getting an understanding from you is, Katie, that you don't want so much seriousness when it comes to our political representatives. Do you want some sarcasm? I feel like some of that has been died out. I mean, we've even saw it in 2019 with comedy, for example.
Well, I mean, I think you need humor. You absolutely do. I mean, look at Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is a perfect example, right? This man got his absolute dream, and because he made a joke 10 years prior to this, they fired him for it. Yeah. How insane are we as a culture when we can't laugh or we can't laugh and just take things as they are. If I trip on my way into the store and I get up and look around hoping no one saw, but someone did, I'm still going to laugh because it is funny. And the only reason why things are funny most days now is because they're true.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's the big gotcha, it's the outrage culture. I mean, it was like with the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Eric Frias. Remember when he lost his job for writing an old joke on Twitter? James Gunn. Thank you, Eric Frias. So it's totally insane. But Katie, you were phenomenal. I just want to remind all the listeners out there, this is former Miss Nevada, Katie Williams. And for all the listeners out there, where can they follow you on social media, Katie?
Oh, man. So I actually have a website page called KatieWilliamsNV.com, but I am also on Instagram at RealKatieWilliams, and I'm on Twitter at RealKatieJoeW. So...
Hey, rock and roll. And Katie, thanks for joining the show. We really appreciate it, having a strong voice, even though maybe our political agendas are separate.
Don't matter. We have that conversation.
We love it, and we had a conversation.
Conversations, and I'll buy you guys all lattes. So.
Yay! And I'll bring the bullets for the guns.
Let's do it.
Oh, you're awesome, fam. Hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Katie.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.